It's Friday the 13th, 2014. It's a full moon. It's the lowest the moon has been in the orbit this year and will be. And the next time we have this combination will be 2049. And I say goodnight to everybody. How are you, folks? We have been struggling for almost a month now with this. 6, 7 months altogether, but the last month's been pretty rough for everybody. Hamters, Brian, Toxic, Mr. I Can See, James Beck, Grandma Goldie, Toxic, James Beck, John, Candace, War Prophet. I'm going to check the audio. Missing Sky. Next time we have this combination. And Delaney, Mr. I Can See, Lori, Lunar, Tanks, Missing Sky, Grandma, David, Candace, James, Toxic, Dana, MSVS, Deborah, hi Deborah, Tinfoil Hatter, getting some attention, Lori, Roosevelt, Zipfree, Lee, anybody know what I'm doing? I'm live streaming on YouTube and sometimes I like to say hi to people because I read almost a couple of 100,000 comments in the last 7 months. We stream when we can, and pretty soon we're going to have all new gear. Hopefully next week or the week after. And we'll have a Wirecast, open Wirecast, 8-core computer. And that'll give us the chromes and blah, blah, blah. So I got a whole lot of work coming up ahead of me for that one. We got a lot of issues. I am Light Patriot. Hi, David. Kate. Hi, Kate. And folks, Kate got a link below. Right below. And that's to the Fukushima hounds. By the hounds, for the hounds. Amthirst. And it's free. And there's a lot of information there. And Kate has made videos. She's very articulate. She's quite clever. And so we know Kate has got the heart, and she's got the skill, and she's got that site over there. And there's a lot of sites out there. Steven's got a site out there. You'll find all kinds of links below. We stream a lot of times, 8 o'clock Pacific Canada, British Columbia, PM. And soon I'll be streaming back to normal again. But soon we'll be doing the interviews, and everything else will be... It's time to ratchet everything up 1,000%. Thank you, Kate. Hi, Alex. And Thrup, T-I-H-R-U-P. I can't even pronounce you. I'm sorry. DC Babu. Burnt, B-R-N-T. Lori, everybody. Let's get started, I guess. Because everything looks like it's synced up. And here we go. You know, I'll take you back to March the 12th. Now, I'll take you back to March 11th. There was 3 melted reactors, 3 detonations over the next couple of days. And there was 4 detonations. One was a nuclear detonation, not a nuclear explosion, but a detonation from the noble gases from the fuel pools at Unit 4 that we're not even sure actually exist anymore. And they have been faking pictures of Unit 4 at CBC and CBS. We've called them out repeatedly and showed the comparisons and how ludicrous it is to suggest that somebody can get into Unit 4. They can't show you pictures of people cleaning Unit 4 up with torches, with cutting torches, with scaffold. You want to see scaffold connection or steeple jack setting up scaffolds at these buildings. They have a structure that hangs over Unit 4. That doesn't touch Unit 4, right? And then the sarcophaguses they put around Unit 1, 2, and 3, these are, well, they haven't got one around 3, but the ones around 1 and 2, they don't touch the buildings. So there's no support for these buildings. The building's all detonated, and they have 1,000 to 5,000 earthquakes a year down there. We listened to the Senate hearing. I'm chopping up that video. It's a 2-hour video a couple of days ago. Had the NRC, Alison McFarlane, the head of the NRC there. And these people are just blatant lawyers. Some of the senators says there was nobody in America has been hurt by nuclear. I mean, there was 800 women that were pregnant were injected with uranium and cesium. And by Stanford, at a hospital, they go to get a checkup and they're pregnant and they get injected with radioactive material and aborting kids with cancers, kids with leukemia. Dug the bodies up, excuse me, I'm burping. Then you got Chernobyl is 1/3 the size of any of the reactors at Fukushima. Chernobyl was a 30% meltdown. Fukushima reactor 3 is missing. It's missing. The fuel pool is missing. The buildings are missing. And, these all detonated 4 out of the 6 reactors. The other 2 reactors, they all had their backs broken by the earthquake. They went through Fukushima. Reactor 3 was 2 million times worse than any other reactor on the planet. Chernobyl was a 30% meltdown. It's 1/3 the size of any of the reactors at Fukushima. That would make number 3 reactor at Fukushima 18 million times worse, not counting the missing fuel pool, because that building is like a firecracker. It's just a little stump lifter. It was 10 stories high. And we are facing an extinction level event for the Pacific Ocean, and they can't turn the clock back on that one, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. That doesn't mean we shouldn't hold our feet to the fire. That means we shouldn't, if anything, we're going to go down kicking and screaming on our backs. We're not going to go silent, that's for sure. If nothing else, we're not going to go quietly. And as this planet wakes up and realizes that we could have a mass panic, and then whatever you got, you can't hang on to. And that's a real possibility, because the nuclear industry has switched gears on us so many times, has around 2,000 PR firms come out and manipulate and lie and deceive. You're talking about equating bananas. They can't tell the difference between a banana and a nuclear fuel rod. And one's 12 feet long, and if you pick it up, you're done from the neutrons and the X-rays. And the other one is banana, and it's harmless. And if you eat it, you off-gas the same amount because it's stupid. It's a banana. Heck, it's not going to mutate fruit flies. And you're not going to find it in M equals EC squared. And you're not going to blah, blah, blah. And so that's just a quick one. That was March 11th. I overstayed on that one a little bit longer than I wanted to, but whatever. So March 12th, explosion heard at Japan plant. High possibility of meltdown for reactor number 1. That was the government flash explosion heard at TEPCO. That was Reuters and Daiichi Military Industrial Complex's directed energy weapon production facility. That's what isotopes really are for. Japan TV shows walls at the power plant have crumbled. March the 12th, not clear if the damaged building housed the reactors. Well, it did. 4 of them. And they blew the walls off them. The reactors were 100% meltdowns. Number 1 was 50 minutes after. It was 100% meltdown. 5 hours later, it was a melt through and a melt out. And you got to realize that they're burning at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, right? And we've covered a lot of this, pretty well all of it, 8,000 headlines. And what you got to remember is that rocks will melt at around 2,000 degree Fahrenheit or less. And so if these cores are on cement, yeah, it's reinforced, but that ain't going to stop. There's nothing on the planet can control a melted core. This is unprecedented. They still haven't even got Chernobyl's 25 years later, 30%. And remember, Chernobyl, they evacuated 3,500 square kilometers around it because that was highly contaminated. But you also got to realize it wasn't just those 3,500 kilometers, and that's the end of it. There was lots of it outside of that, but that was considered high. So say around 8,000 or 9,000 kilometers just around Chernobyl. The Chechnya River in the 1940s evacuated 7,500 communities because that was the moral and ethical thing to do. And 9,000 square miles with an M, and that's a lot of kilometers, by the way, was evacuated. And just while I'm thinking about it, these boiling water reactors. These boiling water reactors, do they boil 1 million gallons a minute? 1 million gallons a minute. And so what does that mean, Dana? How do I put that into perspective? Well, that's 1,440 minutes in a day. No 2 minutes are the same. And I haven't got the math on this one. But it works out it's 400 plants for 40 years at 1,000,000 gallons a minute. It works out to, you can wrap the planet 2,400 times with 8-yard cement trucks, bumper to bumper, full of water that they sterilize. So they killed all the creatures in the water. They boiled the water. They boiled around 7,500 cubic miles, not kilometers now, but miles of ocean water. And Ontario, Canada, because they got like 25 nuclear reactors right there in central Ontario, they boiled, since this is just a 40-year number, they boil around 465 cubic kilometers of fresh water. So all the fresh water in Ontario and Quebec, wherever that's feeding into the United States too, is sterilized, and it doesn't have all the bacteria and the little critters and creatures, the hundreds of millions of little creatures in a small container anymore, per se, right? The genetic superior selection through eons that our planet provided. We boiled them to death. We boiled Lake Superior and Lake Ontario. That's staggering. But just one plant, the amount of water it boils, if you put it in, and you've seen these big 8 cubic yard cement trucks on your highway, they're like 30 feet long. Well, you can circle the planet around 2,400 times every day with a single plant. And so the numbers for all the plants is huge of how much water they actually boil. Because when you say cubic miles, it really doesn't, but that's just one plant in one day. There's enough radioactive material on this planet to cover the 5 smallest American states, the entire states, with about an inch of nuclear waste, highly carcinogenic, deadly, and neutrons and X-rays coming right out of it because it's in chunks, would cook you like a chicken in a microwave. You couldn't run across the street, let alone across the country, if you had that. And so that's 3 cubic miles. See, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's enough to permanently end 5 of the smallest states in America. Or cover the biggest state, California, with an inch of radioactive waste. The entire state of California, the biggest state there is. I think California was it. Under an inch or 2 inches, I can't remember. That's shocking. And we got nowhere to put that. And all this vents into our environment. And so there's a long nightmare there. Let me keep going on those headlines, though. I got just a huge whack of them here. March the 12th, 6.4 earthquake hit Fukushima. Right, the day after the aftershocks, right? March the 12th, CNN reporting a meltdown may be underway at Fukushima. And remember, a couple of days later, CNN said Fukushima, after the 3 detonated reactors, after the detonation of the number 4 spent fuel pool, after the 16th when Harvard came out and said the 3 melt-through reactors, after the 15th when MIT came out and said there was 3 melted reactors, detonated fuel pool, melt-throughs, after Stanford came out on the 16th, after the NRC on the 16th, at the Senate hearing on March 5 days after the and they said meltdown, and this is the NRC, meltdown and melt-throughs and detonations and a 50-mile evacuation. They came out and said that Chernobyl, the CNN did, or Fukushima was about 7% as bad as Chernobyl. Maniacal, to say the best. By the way, Fukushima, they're using missiles from the silos, remilling that uranium, that ionized, radiated, already through the chain reaction several times, and sitting in a silo for a decade or so, or decades, and then putting it through the chain reaction, what they call MOX fuel, to produce energy. Well, you don't need MOX fuel to produce energy. You need that to produce directed energy weapons, isotopes. You could just use the typical concoction they were using 60, 70 years ago, which wasn't dangerous at all, and you can produce all the energy you wanted. And so the military has been going after directed energy weapons. It's not just America, of course. Canada's pretty freaking maniacal, 25 reactors doing it. And you got France, you got China and Israel and Pakistan and India and Russia. and who knows what else they're doing. Then, you look at the Nuclear Earth series of all the human experiments, animal experiments, sickening, like Dr. Raymond Gilmedi from New Mexico, Loveless, torture facility. That's a torture house, right, where they murder puppies, beagle puppies and beagle dogs by making them ingest and inhale plutonium-239 and americium-239. So let me keep going. I'll come over and check here in a second. Now I'm going by dates, right? We're all the way back to the first couple of days because these are so important because the tsunami buried everything. And then I just want to get people back to the foundations. Explosion at Fukushima could have been caused by a meltdown of the reactor core. That was March the 12th. March the 12th, 2011. Explosion at Fukushima could only have been caused by a meltdown of the reactor core. The government agency, Industrial Safety, NISA, said Saturday afternoon explosion at number 1. There was 1 million sievers. 500 sievers will freaking kill you. Excuse me. You gotta watch me sometimes. I forget I'm talking to a camera. But anyway, top official, March the 12th, we're still on March 12th, says meltdown likely underway at second reactor. March the 12th, the day after. We're still fighting about did the reactors melt in the media and apologists and the cheerleading, bootlicking, lapdog machine, but not twisted, demented machine that's out there saying this. You had Jay Cullen from the University of Victoria, a professor, right? November last year up on CBC. I'd done that video about him last week because I was left with no choice. Because he's saying there's no melted reactors. And then he's putting a hypothesis out there of if there was one, we have something to worry about. Well, there's 3 melted reactors. Number 4 is detonated. It's completely destroyed. You can never get in there. And yet, our universities are out there doing stuff like that. And so I kind of wigged out in that video. Not one of my more prettier videos, but how can you blame me? That's twisted. When they're allowed to get up in the media and every sentence is a lie and takes an hour and 18 minutes to call that out. I'm human, okay? And I got a tendency to flip sometimes. Top official. Okay, we left off that one. March the 13th. See, I told you I'd change the scenery a little bit. Official presuming that the 2 nuclear reactors have now melted down. Gee, possibility of a nuclear nightmare. March the 13th. Expert, nuclear radiation now. The next day, March the 14th, the White House gave their first interview, and they had Jacko up there. They had in the NRC at the time, right? And he said, "Oh no, it's okay, right? We got a man on the ground. Things are good." But they knew this, because, like I say, in Japan, at Daiichi and all, there was 14 reactors that were shut down. We don't know how much carnage is really going on here. Remember, these people lied from day one, and the tsunami helped bury everything that was true. But that's what you got here. Officials presuming two reactors. That was 13. March 13th again. Expert, nuclear radiation could spread to the U.S. At least 3 nuclear facilities at risk. Well, for starters, because you had to melt a reactor, that went up into the jet streams, and those jet streams comes right straight across the ocean and pounds into the west coast of Canada, United States. California gets hit hard, but British Columbia, the way it curls out and then curls back, right? It comes in, it circles right around British Columbia, it comes right back to the coastline. And then we had Health Canada, we have the links below to that. Health Canada flew along our coastline on the 18th. We're not up to that date yet. I better keep going. Hang on. But anyway, jet streams at 100 miles an hour, 2,400 miles, 24 hours. You do the math how long it takes to get 5,500 miles. Not very long, 2.5, 3 days. It's over Canada. Over a 40-day, the studies, the modeling from NOAA showed a total blanketing of North America, but so did Switzerland's government, so did France's government, so did a number of countries' governments who had done modeling on the releases, on the dispersal and the disposition and the fallout. And the people we paid, we endowed, the people we We gave them all the equipment they ever wanted, all the money they ever wanted. We gave them all the manpower, all the education. We put all the institutions at their disposal. We gave them just whatever they wanted to go out, and if it happens, to tell us. And what happened was they made it a national security issue, and nobody was allowed to talk about it. And so in March and April, everybody in North America, no matter where you're to, you were ingesting radioactive sulfur particles, peroxide. I'll cover that in a bit. Keep going. Nuclear plant designer. Tokyo is suppressing information. Serious meltdown. Highly likely. Highly likely. March the 13th, 2011. March the 14th. That was the day of the White House. So all this had been known, right? And normally I tell you all the headlines, the name of the Time or New York Times. I'm just so sick of wasting time doing that all the time. March the 14th, fuel rods at Fukushima. Look up the headlines, you'll find it. Fuel rods at Fukushima number 2 reactor fully exposed. March the 14th. And he stood up at the White House and said everything was hunky-dory. March the 14th, TEPCO, fuel rods at Fukushima number 2 reactors were fully exposed. Third explosion feared. They lost cooling function. 50 minutes later, she detonated, right? And I've covered so much, but let's keep going. I just wanted to tonight just pound and grind, because I got to get some of that out of my system sometimes. Photographer in Fukushima, March the 15th. It is a panic there. No way to escape as the gas stations are closed and the rescuers are gone. And remember, in Fukushima Prefecture, the radiation levels in the community were so high they were stripping the hair off people's heads. They were stripping the hair off their bodies, off their arms, walking down the road. Remember, they were puking uncontrollably in the streets. And that plume went all the way to Tokyo, 100 million people, all the way to there. And then we find out that right from one end of Japan to the other end of Japan, it's wasteland of radioactive material. But cancers take 5, 10, 15 years to show up. But that don't mean the autoimmune diseases and deficiencies and issues don't show up. 43% of all children at Fukushima Hospital, which is owned by TEPCO, and they don't treat people for radiation sickness no more. But originally, we got the headlines from AP. 43% of the children had huge counts per minute from ingesting radioactive particles. And all they talk about is the iodine 131 with an 8-day half-life. Times 10 is 80. No problem to make it across in 3 days and give everybody thyroid cancer. And even if you took iodine, you're still going to ingest radioactive material. It's a lose-lose. We were supposed to shelter in place. You know, that's what our system was supposed. We put it there to do that if there was an event. Now, if Russia or North Korea had detonated a bomb, they would have told us all to stay in our house for like 6 months. Yeah, guy will shoot you on the streets if they come out to your door. It's martial law. But when they have an event, in order to protect the grossest, most disgusting thing on the planet, nuclear, all nuclear professors and scientists are actual monsters. They know what they're saying is a fabrication. They know these elements are 100% man-made. They know nothing on the planet can sustain it. They know it's a terrible, terrible, unimaginable thing to have loose. One isotope is too many to have in our environment. It's that bad of a creature. Let me keep going. Worse than a meltdown, says expert, March the 15th. 4 days later, 2011, the spent nuclear fuel pool catches fire. Now, we know that happened in number 2 too, right? Reactor number 2. But number 4 was a really obvious one because, and I haven't got my Wirecast, so I can't show you pictures and videos for at least another week. But we'll have that back up running with a webcam and with the whole program wide open on an 8-core. Going to be really cool. Then we're going to come out and beat these people. We're just going to bludgeon them constantly. That was March the 15th. 2011, another headline would be like Chernobyl on steroids. We've heard this one before. A spent fuel pool catches fire. There was 14,000, the animosity equivalent, Hiroshima bombs worth of radiation. And allegedly still is. But you can't believe them because they faked, and you look it up on my site, fake pictures of Unit 4, CBS, Setdoran. Just look up Unit 4 and you'll see those short little videos where I have the pictures. And so you look at the official releases. You can download 2,000 pictures under my video. You can download a couple of million emails under my video to the official government sites, both of them, right? To the NRC, the official government, they are authentic emails. A lot of that's redacted. But you can download even better on top, do both and read through it. You can download 2,335 pictures in a link below and 99 packages from TEPCO's website. And look at the billings yourself from TEPCO. Most of those pictures, some of them are not going to be clean because that was the Fukushima 50 and radiation screws up your camera. Otherwise we'd have all kinds of pictures, but the robots keep dying. But at least you got the pictures when the Fukushima 50 ran through all that gamma and beta and alpha and x-rays and neutrons from a chain reaction. And the real men there, I tell you what. That's real men there. You won't see Jacko. You won't see Ken Buesler running through there with his camera so he can update his Twitter, his Facebook, his Instagram, his MySpace. I gotta lick my iPhone charger. Keep on that routine. By the way, Whip. Well, Whip. I was going to say something else that time, but Whip repository. You can imagine what I was going to say. Well, Whip, New Mexico. No offense to people in New Mexico, but I just like saying that. Carlsbad. They had a truck fire, right, a few months ago, and 170 employees wouldn't go back down in the mine because truck fires are so dangerous, right? Everybody knows you got a truck fire. We have a truck fire in British Columbia. One of these days, we're probably going to have to abandon British Columbia because everybody knows truck fires are some pretty scary stuff when they catch fire. Can't go back down in the huge, massive mine with massive, you can drive 12 trucks alongside of each other through the mine, and they can't get on the other side of the truck and put the fire out. No, abandon ship, abandon a multi-billion-dollar operation. 55 football field size repositories of, half a mile underground is what really happened. They had let go. But they blamed it on a truck fire, and to this day, they won't go retract the truck fire. So ask yourself, why wouldn't they go underground if you had a truck fire? Your truck fire's out, go down, drag it out, get another truck. What's the big deal? You got billions of dollars, no cameras, because nobody's ever showed us any footage of it. Nobody can go back down. Lucky for them, they had a radiation release 9 days later on February the 14th, didn't have to go back down. I digress. But if the spent fuel pool catches fire, says a nuclear engineer who worked at an identical plant, each reactor holds 3,450, let me get this right, spent fuel assemblies. Now each assembly is 60 to 80. My numbers are 80. That's 280,000 rods. These rods are so toxic for so long because they've been through the chain reaction, because they came from a missile, because there's so much plutonium that was already irradiated and ionized and put through the chain reaction multiple times. And just putting it through the chain reaction makes the gammas, the betas, the alphas, the emitters, the atoms, the particles, a couple of million times worse. Well, what happens when you keep doing that? And then you spray salt water on it and you create these sulfur peroxide, and there's links, peer review studies below about that. Buckyballs, they're shaped like a buckyball and just a particle. I know sometimes I get a tendency to go all over the place. March the 15th, 2011, nuclear engineer, far more radioactivity inside the spent fuel ponds than in the reactors could very well produce damage greater than Chernobyl. In other words, the fuel pools themselves, right, and just his early estimate of what he had learned was like, hey, that's that's worse than Chernobyl. Of course it is. The spent fuel pools have already been irradiated and through the chain reaction. They're going to sit in the fuel pools where they're going to boil off about 120,000 liters a day into the community. And that's why there's a 20% increase or more of the child leukemia and cancers within 15 miles of any nuclear power plant. All nuclear power plants, just the fuel pools, because you got to sit in the fuel pool after they're coming out of the reactor for 5, 10, 15. Some of them have been there 25, 30 years. And so that's always boiling off. They have to perpetually put water in these fuel pools the whole time. And it boils off. Each fuel pool, 120,000 liters. And so that steam you see coming out of the chimney, that's death. You know why those stacks are so high? Because that's death. That's what they do. They spew out death. All the containment vessels don't contain anything. They're all vented because of the noble gases will detonate these things. It's one big lie after another. It's one endless lie, endless fabrication, endless misdirection, endless manipulation from every angle. They just bombard you with bananas, potato chips, and ocean water, an iPhone, fucking iPod. See, I lost it. Right? And they just keep you distracted and stupid. And then they marginalize and demonize and vilify people like me who just stick to the headlines. Let's keep going. March the 15th, what we have already is the worst case scenario at Fukushima. The whole globe will see, I almost done it again. Be affected. The radiation will cover the whole globe. Ken Buesler. I see nothing. I find nothing. I can't see nothing. There's nothing out there. I'm a scientist from Woods Hole. Are you a nuclear scientist? Well, no. Well, how come? Sorry. Oh, because National Geographic and everybody will just put me up anyway. And did he fact check your banana story, Ken? No, why would he do that? Because of bananas homeostasis, Mr. Buesler. Buesler. March the 15th. What we have already is worst case scenario at Fukushima. Once again, the whole globe will be affected. Well, you got to think about a gram of it produces more radioactive atoms, and a single atom is enough to give you cancer. But a gram produces more radioactive atoms, and there's fuel pools are missing hundreds of thousands of tons. All the, will produce more grams than all the grains of sands and all the beaches on the planet. A single gram. A gram of uranium ionized 238. That is, it's processed, it's extracted, it's as pure as form possible without no impurities. It's been through the chain reaction. It's been through the enrichment. That's 1,000,000 watts. That's 1,000,000 watts. That's 666 1,500 watt hair dryers for months at a time on a gram. And it's something smaller than your watch. Right? So, that's pretty cool. But unfortunately, right, it's going to destroy everything on this planet. Those 3 multi-reactors, they had their basements broken. They're full of 50, 60, a billion becquerels a cubic centimeter. That'll kill you. You're done. You don't need anywhere near that to be done with. And that's hemorrhaging directly into the groundwater, into the ocean. There's 3 melter reactors. The coriums are melted. This is 3,450 assemblies. Number 3, we think, was blown out. So the fissionable product was blasted all over the site. When they created that site, they brought in 100 foot of topsoil. Think about topsoil. Think about you just fill up your area with topsoil and you come in, you threw water all over. What happened? Topsoil sank down, right? And so these rods, that was the oh shit plan, was the rods would blow up and they go out and land in the topsoil. And underneath it was an old riverbed. And the riverbed is because the river's been there for millenniums and it washed all the topsoil away down to the bedrock. And so that river is wearing away the bedrock over millenniums and eons and everything else. And so what they did was took over that. And so all this water floods down the mountain because that ain't, just because you put topsoil there, they're not going to stop that from happening. And all that water runs underneath the plant. And so all the fissionable products, the melted cores, are gone past that. They're gone down past that, down to the rocks. You're 5,000, 6,000 degree temperatures, 9,000 recorded. Nothing is going to stop that. Nothing is going to hang on that. Nothing is going to slow that down. There's no precedent for it. They never let it get over 1,600 degrees because it'll melt through the container. Boiling water reactor, the only reason they're boiling the water because that's the only way they can kind of control the almost chain reaction. Never actually hit the chain reaction, or they're in this stutter mode the whole friggin' time. And the water is about cooling it, and a byproduct of that is boiling it. And so they use that to make energy, and then they deposit that into your communities. And all you need is an event, a massive solar flare, and all the power plants go down. Everything on this planet dies. The whole shit plan is not going to work for them. Every one of them are going to leach into your oceans, leach into your river, Lake Ontario, Lake Superior, the St. Lawrence in Canada. Huge, massive releases. Inconceivable. Just Americans are being dicks. What they've released, dropped, atomic bombs in the St. Lawrence and never recovered, with just massive amounts of ionized, radiated uranium-238 and plutonium. And that's still releasing until, the end of time. These atoms, these molecules, because salt water rushed the crap out of everything. Let me keep going. Leading Japan paper, Fukushima will now be compared to Chernobyl. It's just a single reactor at Fukushima is 3 times the size of Chernobyl. A single reactor, not counting the fuel pools, at Fukushima was 100% meltdown. Chernobyl, 30% meltdown. Fukushima is 3 times the size as Chernobyl. Chernobyl is using graphites. Nothing to do with plutonium and the MOX combination, this demented combination that will end life as we know it. And we have to fight back. We have to stand our ground. We have to hold them accountable. We have to take advantage of the system we got now before anarchy and chaos follows, before the chaos and the panic, right? And then martial law and life must go on nonsense and routines. But on March the 16th, leading Japan paper, Fukushima, 4 nuclear reactors standing in a line are simultaneously spinning out of control. That was 5 days later. Fox, no, everything's good. CNN, it's like 7% to Chernobyl. Just twisted, and they're still doing this stuff today. They'll come out and tell you the truth once in a while, and then 6 hours later come out with another report, nothing but lies. Because they're lobbyists, right? Top U.S. nuclear official raises the possibility of widespread nuclear fallout caused by the spent fuel pool. What about the missing reactors, the melted cores, the hydrogen nuclear detonations on March the 16th, 2011? That was AP. March the 16th, 2011, U.S. official fears Fukushima to be deadly for decades. It's never going to stop hemorrhaging in that ocean. 400 to 800 tons, most likely 1,000, 1,500 tons, because you got to think about the detonations up to 2 miles away. The rods were dispersed, hundreds of thousands of rods, hundreds of thousands of spent fuel rods. The reactor had 280,000 rods in it. We know the core was ejected at a Unit 3. We have nothing but a history, and we back everything up. It would be hard to describe how alarming this is right now, March the 16th, right? That was the same day Harvard and Stanford and MIT gave their, and I mean, like you've seen the videos where there's 3 melted reactors and a spent fuel pool that caught fire. They're like really low, got their head down. It's like they don't want to be there. They don't want to be the ones on the other end of that camera. Writers and AP were tweeting it out live, and I was like, ooh, I got them bent over the barrel, so to speak. And I got those little short 30, 40, 50-second clips uploaded a few weeks ago. You should check them out. I included pictures, authentic, vetted pictures. So U.S. official on the 16th, this has all gone to shit, guys. March the 18th, nuclear expert. These things could go on for months. And they did, all the way up to November. We know they were hemorrhaging into the upper atmosphere, not let alone the ocean, that hasn't stopped for 1,160 days. That's St. Paddy's Day every minute, 1,440 minutes a day. It's 1,000 pounds, basically, a minute. It's like a truck with 1,000 pounds of dye. You put it in the ocean. Think about it. Think about St. Paddy's Day. And they put 25 pounds of dye in a river, 50 pounds of dye. And the whole river turns green, right? For a long time. And that river is running, and it stays green for a long, long time. But imagine 1,000 pounds in that river. Imagine if you put 1,000 pounds in that river every minute, and that river was 4,000 or 5,000 miles long. And imagine after 1,160 days, over 3 years later, I said, okay, now get in this jet fighter, and I want you to go to the end of the river 4,000 or 5,000 miles away, and tell me where that dye stopped. And tell me where the estuaries are the right colors, where the green didn't affect them, where the rain didn't liberate it and pick it up and deposit it all over communities and footballs and schools and stadiums 4,000 miles downriver, because it did. every river would have been, every lake and estuary along the way would have been green. Just imagine you've done it one day. 1,440 minutes a day in a 4,000-mile river, and you put in 1,000 pounds a minute of radioactive dye that doesn't disperse or dilute or become solutable for millenniums like the radioactive material. Would you get it then? Because that's what's going on. You could lose all 6 of the reactors. The other 2 reactors, like, it was so much radiation in the basements, they filled up with water. The buildings were destroyed anyway. They were spraying that radioactive material into the basements on the 4 and 5. They were spraying salt water for 40 days straight into the ocean. And that salt water, that sulfur on the reactors, within 2 weeks, these reactors and the fuel rods and the claddings, the zirconium claddings, these were severely affected because of the salt water. And they couldn't change that water for about 40 days. And that's why you had all that chaos, because that created the noble gases and the hydrogen. And that was a given. There was going to be just you can't get near it. You can't get in there for hundreds of years. You can't get in any of the buildings for hundreds of years. And then we have them come out in line in the last couple of minutes about Unit 4, showing us a perfectly molly-made, polished, spit and shine, and people walking around. And that's supposed to be inside of Unit 4, where they had a hydrogen explosion. Now, you go look at the videos, and you tell me. No, I mean, go look at the pictures, download them underneath my video from TEPCO's website, and you tell me they're the same? It's ludicrous. It's obscene. Expert on CNN, Fukushima will end very, very badly. No one knows how to stop it. That was March 27th. And March 27th, another headline, Japan says partial meltdown in number 2 reactor. Now, they admitted that, right? Stanford, Harvard, MIT. We got the videos of them admitting it on the 15th and the 16th. We got the NRC at a Senate hearing on the 16th admitting it. Same things. But yet TEPCO's out there saying it again. That's what you're hearing, see? But even though you got other headlines where TEPCO said, no, everything's fine. TEPCO VP, possibly years before the crisis ends. For the crisis. They're stuffing the holes at Fukushima with homeless people. You can't stop it. You can't slow it down because it'll back up and you'll lose the site. There'll be liquefaction like is going on there now. They're perpetually spraying water on everything now because you got no choice because of a chain reaction. Can happen anywhere on that site because of the detonations, and the rods are all over that friggin' place. And so like wintertime when it rains and snows and stuff like that, it's washing all this fissionable and all these, the the chunks are splitting the atoms, right? So you're creating this massive unhinged toxic isotope, so we don't even know what the hell is going on. TEPCO lost the race to same Fukushima reactor March the 29th. Expert. Workers at the Japan nuclear plant has lost the race to save the reactor. That was Fox News, by the way. IAEA, International Atomic Energy Association. Uncontrolled nuclear chain reaction may be coming from melted fuel in number 1 reactor. Well, number 1 melted down in 50 minutes. And there was a melt through 5 hours later. They're still arguing about this stuff, but that's the fact. March the 30th, 2011, Japan will consider pouring concrete on its crippling Fukushima atomic military-industrial complexes, directed energy weapons, isotope production facility. Is the real actual what it is. It's got nothing to do with making power. That's just a byproduct of the most twisted, demented thing in our entire universe, the Milky Ways, the solar system. Ethereal blue flash, March 31st, may occur during localized criticality. Bloomberg. If you go look up neutrons in Fukushima, you'll get a lot of crap. But you can find there was at least 10 of these neutron flashes, they figure from the 235, uranium 234, 235, right? Hang on, I got to get that rest of that stuff up. Here we go. March 31st, we're still in March 2011. Fukushima had at least 20 times more radioactive inventory than Chernobyl. The fuel pool that we suspect don't even exist at number 4 had 14,000 minimum Hiroshimas in just the pool. And number 4 was down for maintenance. They had the 3,450 assemblies, plus all the stored spent fuel pools already in the pools, right? And this building was a 10-story building, and there's nothing left to it. Just a broken, snapped frame, right? And we've covered it extensively. You go look up my special broadcast a couple of weeks ago. It's got like 28,000 views. Well, that was Wirecast. I got all the pictures, all the headlines. I got all the modelings. I got all the Yale, not Yale, MIT, Stanford, Harvard, and other institutions. And they're seeing that one. I got Ken Buesler, everybody. The videos in it. It's a really good little video. Some videos work out so well. That was one of them. I was calm the whole way through. And that was about Unit 4. We had a massive, I almost forgot, we had that fire on May the 20th at Unit 4. The TEPCO uploaded from their live cam directly onto their site 24 videos a day that are compressed 20 times into 3-minute videos. And so when you unpack that video, you had about a 30-minute raging fire that was at least 1,800 feet long, right? And because it's compressed times 20 to a 3-minute video, but you got to unpack it to a 1-hour video, and you can actually follow how the fire slowly progresses, the different heights of it, the intensities, the releases, the fire or the smoke. Fukushima had at least 20 times more radioactive. Ongoing massive releases of radioactivity, and not over by a long shot. That was March the 30th. Creeping meltdown. Optimism evaporates. March the 30th, 2011. April the 1st, and this is not April Fool's. Localized criticality happening now. Blue flashing light over Fukushima. Not good news. IAEA doesn't think it will call a full-on meltdown across the plant. Well, it did. And the IAEA is just, it's evil. Unclear evil. United Nations evil, lying. We've called them out. We cornered them like rats, and they came out trying to attack us and bite us. And we're still standing, no pun intended. Guardian, Fukushima meltdown may be worse than Chernobyl. Ha! You don't say. Chernobyl, 1/3 the size of any of the reactors. Chernobyl didn't have fuel pools that are friggin' gone like firecrackers. New York Times, April the 2nd. Public authorities avoiding details that may trigger alarm or panic. They don't want to go there, says former advisor to the U.S. Secretary of Energy. And you know how all the radiation detectors were taken down across Canada and Saanich and Vancouver, Haida to Charlottes? They took them down, right? 5 days after Health Canada flew along our coastline. There's a link below to that study for on March the 18th for 18 hours, taking samples of 750 feet. And there was an invisible snowstorm inundated the entire coastline from one end to the other end in Canada. And nothing escaped that. We never had the chance. They knew it. They verified it. They used our money, our equipment, our monetary, and they were authorized to do all this, and then they hid it from us. They never even told the children to stay home. If you had a snowstorm, they said, hey, stay home. Have a radioactive snowstorm, they say, hey, everything's cool. Haha, go out, enjoy your day, suck up some bucky balls, lick your iPhone chargers. WIP equated radiation, man-made radiation. If you ingest it, it sequesters into your organs, into your muscles, into your bones. You know, with licking an iPhone charger. Or like eating a banana or eating potato chips or the background, walking in the sunshine or a chest x-ray or a dental x-ray. No, if you ingest a hot particle, you're getting a chest x-ray every moment till the day you die. And when they cremate you, if they do, they liberate that atom, that particle, that isotope from your body back into the environment. Well, the isotope can't exist without the atom, but they liberate that back into the environment. You can nitpick me all you want. I know people do that to me all the time, where if I don't really explain how exactly everything lines up, and I just layman's terms that I do sometimes, I get beat up for it. I gotta watch what I say sometimes. Riva's VP presentation says there's been a release of fissionable products during the meltdown. One of the greatest disasters in modern time. April the 2nd. April the 5th, Maryland senior scientists very surprised over radioactive iodine-131 findings. A fat red bar on the graph, never seen before. Baltimore Sun, April the 4th, and then reprinted on the 5th. Chernobyl cover-up in Canada revealed by the local BC official. My hair stood straight up when told not to worry about radiation from Fukushima. They found 2 types on April the 5th, April 9th, of radiation at dangerous levels, right? Health Canada found 300 times background of iodine-131 here in British Columbia. And that was, so there was an ongoing releases right up to November, right? March, April, May, June, July, August, September, November. So 8 months it was hemorrhaging into the atmosphere. The initial plumes went up 1,500 and 2,500 feet from a couple of detonations. But then these particles are so small, they're so tiny, 1/10,000th of a millionth of a meter. You got to realize how big the particles that come across the ocean in trans-Pacific pollution studies. Look that up, and you can get them at Yale and Harvard and other places, especially these are big particles like from forest fires, right? Big particles. They make it across the ocean, contribute to your indexes, to your pollution. You got to realize that the particles from Fukushima, they're many, like 10,000 times smaller than the automobile and the typical trans-Pacific pollution that is, contributes heavily, makes its way across the Pacific in short order. And so it doesn't necessarily need to make it all the way up to the jet stream, but it did because of so much heat. The hotter the forest fire, the more particles, the smaller they were, the harder they went up, the studies show, right? Well, Fukushima, you don't get any hotter than that. And see, what goes on is Fukushima cannibalizes, right, consumes everything around it at 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. Things fall in metal and that atomizes, and that aerosols, and they are particles and atoms too. Don't forget that. That is made of atoms and particles, and they become ionized, they become radiated, and they're no different, right? They're just as deadly. There's no difference whatsoever. And it only takes 3 days for the jet streams to whisk it across the ocean. But then you think about the 50 square miles, 1.8 million square miles that have hemorrhaged out of there that we can estimate reliably, that we can say, okay, we know there's 400 a minute, 600 a minute, up to 1,000, 1,500 a minute. And so we always stick with low numbers like, it's 300 or it's 400 tons a day. But make no mistake, right? Do that up in transport trucks and then divide that up into 24 hours, and then, or trucks, right? 1,000 pounds in a truck. And so just to use a good model, it's 1,000 pounds a minute, 1,440 minutes a day. That's real hardcore. This is a chain reaction. We need the academic community to get, to man up, to gut up, to speak up, to use your voice. No one's going to listen to me. I won't get the platform you folks got. And you can't hold on to your pension, but your pension is hopeless because this is doing so much carnage. It's undeniable. Let me keep going. April 13th, highly radioactive lake is built up in the depths of Fukushima. April 13th. April 15th, fuel rods in reactor 1 and 3 have melted and settled at the bottom of their containment vessel. They don't settle, right? They just keep going. Right, the minute that it gets through the containment, it's gone. That'll slow it down for 6 or 8 hours, but that's about it. It's gone. Nuclear expert, by the way, iodine-131 number 4 pool suggested that a spent fuel has started its own chain reaction in the number 4 spent fuel pool. If that happened, it would have melted through it. There's no way to keep water in it. You can put 500 hoses in there. You couldn't keep. So like that alone, gives a good credibility. There was nothing left there. And that is a big hoax. Why did they fake the pictures, and still do, of Unit 4 when we got the authentic pictures? And then we got the authentic pictures again recently that shows it's perfect, and nobody can get in there. Nobody can work on it. You're talking about fuel rods everywhere. You're talking about nothing can survive in that environment. That's why they spend the billions. We keep going anyway. As workers pour water in the unit forward, they might essentially be creating a nuclear reactor. Experts, Fukushima is going to kill 200,000 from increased cancers, is worse than Chernobyl. 200,000? Well, just in the Fukushima prefecture? Or, like, you got to realize, Tokyo was buried in 300,000. They're burning it in the incinerators. Some of the prefectures are digging up 6 inches of topsoil where it's millions of becquerels per cubic meter, square meter, and they're bringing that to other prefectures, grinding it up, and then burning it in incinerators. They got 1 billion tons to burn, or 4 billion tons of radioactive material to burn, to get rid of. And their solution is to burn it. Right? And so you're aerosoling it and atomizing it, and it's created at 3 and 4 and 5 and 6,000. Do you think an incinerator at 700 or 800 degrees is going to destroy it or something? You got to realize, you can, like you say, you can pour, like Brad Chick was saying, you can pour battery acid over it, and you can't decontaminate it. Let me keep going. There's so much mud in reactor number 1 is preventing water from getting into the core. Number 1 melted down in 50 minutes, and a melt through in 5 hours. April 18th, top Japanese official discusses total meltdown at Fukushima. Plant will not have a total meltdown if the current cooling of its overheating reactors continue. I'm going to run out of minutes on this, and I'll jump over to you guys. TEPCO official described possible meltdown in number 1 reactor. April 21st, renowned nuclear policy expert, every amount of radiation exposure increases your risk to cancer. Like 10, 12 becquerels will cause permanent lesions to your organs. They're talking about 1,200 becquerels in your food per kilogram. Humans can eat a kilogram in a couple of days. And so you're accumulated. It's bioaccumulating. Hardcore. It's not like a banana where it's homeostasis. You off-gas it. It's insignificant and normal every day. Blah, blah, blah. Idiotic. TEPCO claims explosion at number 4 spent fuel pool may have prevented rods from melting down. That just, right? You know what I'm saying? If you see, go look at the pictures below it. Download them. Go look at them. From the government's website. Top Japanese nuclear expert proponent government announcement is wrong. I believe all the fuel rods are completely melted down. Japan Nuclear Technology Institute senior advisor says reactor 1, 2, and 3 all had complete meltdown. Well, Harvard told us that on the 15th. Stanford told us on the 16th. MIT told us on the 16th. The NRC told everybody on C-SPAN at the Senate hearing on the 16th. But we're still fighting about it, and I just wanted to go out and throw all these headlines out there. Move Japan's parliament to Fukushima, says lawmaker. Move Japan's parliament to Fukushima, then you get some action. Right? TEPCO says sharp rise in temperatures at reactor number 3 is it due to the melting of the nuclear fuels. I screwed up. I gotta drag over that other computer, the noisy one, so I can see what I got done here. Because there's no browser open on that one. And I guess, well, basically, I'll come in and say goodnight to everybody. I just wanted to put out a video, hammer out some headlines. Try to keep the energy going till I get everything set back up and get back up and running. And make no mistake, everything I've said is coming. I can assure you. I'm limited. 8 computers later in 7 months. It's pretty hardcore, you know, even for the best of anybody, okay? And so they don't want my narrative out there. I don't care about that. I'm Canadian, I'm very privileged, and my freedom of speech is more important than their censorship. And I will persevere and prevail. Just got to refresh my page. It's because I just yacked for how long? 58 minutes! Wow. Hardcore. Dana hardcore. Okay, here it comes. I'll come over and say goodnight. That was cool anyway. We snapped her out to that time. That was a fast ride. I had 2 thumbs down before I even started the night. Just because I put up, I might not have much, but I still got Fukushima. That was like an insult. That the headline is for TEPCO and for the Yakuzus and for the people that are sending the homeless in there, that are victimizing the most vulnerable in our society. Good night, Kate, Toxic, Jamie, Jill Clarkson. Hi, Jamie. Patrick, Don Wong, Jill Clarkson, Delomi, Miss Milky the Clown. Yeah, thank you, Miss Milky. You're a busy girl. We really like what you're doing there. I should always try to comment on your videos, though I really need to. Hi, Nip Killer. I can't keep up. Sword of True, MSVS, Amthirst. I'm just saying goodnight to everybody. Grandma Goldie, hugs for you, honey. Krishna, Original Punisher, Turtle. I like that. Good name. War Prophet. Roosevelt. Yeah, once I get the 8-core, I'll order it next week. It's going to have a hardcore graphics card. 8 cores, real deal. And I'll be announcing the name of the website. I got the name of the website, but I'm not telling you yet. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just going to keep going like I am right now until I got everything. Because that 8-core got 36 gigabyte RAM. And so I can load up all the videos and all, like probably 10,000 pictures and headlines. And then have the webcam really good quality. And be able to bring people into the conversation. I'm going to conquer that. Right, so I'll be doing a lot of work on that. And it's time to move on in the next couple of weeks and really bring in the interviews, bring in the people that are controversial, try to get Ken Buechler on the show. That'd be awesome. So we say goodnight to everybody. I'll just come down and catch a couple more just to make sure. Wait for it to start scrolling here. It'll start scrolling. Scroll! Always takes a second for it to catch up. But yeah, we hammered out the headlines. We made it the first 30 days. But that's some really good headlines because that's what was going on. So why are we still arguing about it today, right? Why do we have to be assaulted and abused and threatened all the time? Missing Sky again. You'll find links below to a lot of these people. Mickey Smith. Good night, Grandma Goldie. Info Power. Bird Smell, Lori, Sword of Truth, James Beck. There you go, that's awesome. Aqua, we got some good names. Lori, Tia, the Monterey's, excellent. Sylvia, Steven, Indian Pony, that's awesome. I got a whole bunch of you folks in tonight. And check out Miss Milky, check out Missing Sky. They're really working hard to get narratives from all over. And some of them narratives you're not going to agree with, but that's the point. You got to have them out there, right? So that we can have the debate. And sometimes it's not clear, that's all. And sometimes people make mistakes, and I've done that myself. 8-core machine coming, yeah, we already got it all scoped out. Good night, Scottish Girl. Everybody else, David, Amthirst, Yusuf, Punisher. There we go, Alex Smith. Good night, everybody. Thanks for dropping in. I know Friday night is not the best night, but I figure something for everybody to catch on the weekend to keep them motivated. Don't think for a second I slowed down. I downloaded, screen captured the Senate and the NRC a few days back 4 times. That's 8 hours. And I still didn't like the copy. And I'm going to do it another time. But I chunked a bunch out of it. I'm going to rip those people Monday or Tuesday really good. A little bit of a... because I'm trying to calm down a little bit. I'm not trying to be the crazy, mad nut job that I can be, that I enjoy being. Don't get me wrong. I like being a nut job because you get it off your chest. And I've never done nothing I'm ashamed of. I got nothing to hide, no reason to lie, no reason to deceive, no reason to manipulate, because you lose everything and everybody at one time if you do something. If you ever go down that road to try to win over people or try to get the word out there, you end up losing. And we don't need to do it. We got thousands of headlines. And we have perseverance. Because in the next couple of months, things, I guarantee you, that are going to change. We are winning the battle. Right? Your hard work, your dedication, your ability to vet and come out and argue and beat these people up hasn't gone unnoticed, okay? Amazing amount of journalists all over this planet are becoming extremely knowledgeable and are using our narrative everywhere we go. That's a win. They can't use the word banana without somebody coming in and just pounding them with common sense. That's what makes us different. We can do it with class. Well, you can. Don't count on me. I could wig. I'll catch you folks later. Take care, folks. Oh, no, I'm actually